I usually refrain from commenting on what other Yugi tubers do in general, but I recently saw the theoretical support proposed by Team APS for the vampire archetype and was rather disappointed. I think what bothered me the most was their belief at the end that their support would increase the playability of vampires to tier 2 or 2.5 level. Vampires right now are about tier 10, and the support proposed by Team APS would increase their competitiveness to tier 9, maybe. Overall, the first card was okay, but nothing special for its design seems solely to support Sorcerer's Graveyard effect, and the second and third cards were rather unimpressive and ineffective retrain. In my countdown of the most disappointing archetypes, Vampires was on the list, largely because the deck to graveyard mechanic was poorly designed and not really supported. There was no real benefit to doing it in the first place, especially because your opponent got to choose. Therefore, in my opinion, when creating new support for vampires, you need to either completely throw out that mechanic, which seems rather foolish because so many cards within the archetype utilize that mechanic, or make cards that place more value on that mechanic, for at the moment it is a very underwhelming mechanic. If I were to make vampire support, here's what I'd do. Note that because this is more of a reaction to the Team APS's video, these cards were made on the fly, so forgive any wording issues. The first card, Strength of a Vampire. Quick play spell. If a vampire monster is on your side of the field, select one of the following effects. Look at your opponent's hand and then select one card type, monster, spell, or trap. Your opponent sends a number of cards of that type from their deck to the graveyard equal to the number of monsters in their hand. Select one vampire monster on the field. Until the end of the next battle phase, double its original attack if it battles an opponent's monster. Remove one vampire monster from play, and special summon one Mist token. Dark Fiend, level 1, 0 attack, 2000 defense. If a Mist token is attacked, the attacking player flips a coin. If the result is tails, the attack is negated. During your next standby phase, special summon the vampire monster removed from play by this effect and destroy any Mist tokens on the field. One of the biggest problems vampires have is a lack of attack power, and while the 500 attack boost from Kingdom is nice, it is still commonly not enough for anything that is not Genesis, and Genesis is not a good card anyways. Strength gives a significant level of versatility to the archetype, increasing attack power to net major battle damage and a destroyed monster, creating an evasion strategy, or it also creates the potential for a mass mill from the deck, limiting your opponent's options and triggering effects within the second and third card of this theoretical support. Basically, this card is a nice offensive and defensive option for the archetype. The second card, Fear of the Immortal Vampire. Normal spell. Special summon one vampire monster from your graveyard and give it the following effect. During either player's standby phase, special summon a coffin token. Dark, zombie, level 1, 0 attack, 0 defense. Level 4 or higher vampire monsters cannot be destroyed while a coffin token is on the field. Once per turn, you contribute one coffin token to increase the attack of all vampire monsters on your field by 500. While this card is in the graveyard, if a card is sent from your opponent's deck to their graveyard by the effect of a vampire card, you can add this card from your graveyard to your hand, but banish it after activating it. If this card is in your graveyard, you can banish it and then select one card type, monster, spell, or trap. Your opponent sends one card of that type from their deck to the graveyard. It seems right for vampires to have their own Monster Reborn type card. This card nets a monster that can protect itself via the coffin mechanic, as well as protecting all the other vampire monsters through that same mechanic, in addition to increasing the attack for all vampire monsters permanently. Again, dealing with that low attack point problem. Also, it has two interesting and useful graveyard effects. You can add it back to the hand for another use before it's banished, to net another monster, just the routine operation of the deck, This is what I mean when I said earlier that cards need to be designed to interact with the opponent deck mill mechanic that vampires have, or if you need to mill something from the opponent's deck to trigger something else, but have nothing immediately available to you in monster form, you can banish it from the graveyard to receive that automatic mill. Finally, the third card, Vampire Thrall. Dark Zombie, level 1, 600 attack, 1000 defense, tuner. Effect: if a card is sent from your opponent's deck to their graveyard by the effect of a vampire card, you can special summon this monster from your hand. If this monster is summoned by this effect, apply one of the following effects based on the card type sent to the opponent's graveyard. Monster: draw 2 cards, then discard 1 card. Spell: special summon one level 6 or lower vampire monster from your deck. Trap: select one face-up card on the field and negate its effect. Each one of these effects can only be activated once per turn. Banish one vampire monster from your graveyard to increase the level of this card by the level of the banished card. During either player's turn, you can return this card to your hand to look at the top card of your opponent's deck and either return it to the top of the deck or place it at the bottom of your opponent's deck. This effect of Vampire Thrall can only be activated once per turn. The vampire archetype is severely lacking of quality level 4 or lower monsters, with a number of monsters having vampire in their names, but nothing to do with the actual archetype. Thrall fits the general lore theme of vampires, as well as does a lot of work to help support the archetype in general. It is a level 1 tuner, opening the door for synchro plays, especially in support with its fellow zombie monster, Plague Spreader. It can innately special summon itself, providing some level of tribute fodder, especially with Fear's graveyard effect from above, and then it nets a nice effect depending on what the controller feels is most necessary, because the controller does control the type of card that the opponent will be discarding. Deck speed and plussing for sending a monster, which is commonly the most dangerous choice, a free level 6 or lower monster from the deck for sending a spell, or the ability to cripple the effect of any face-up card on the field, be it monster, spell, or trap. It also has a Spore-like level change effect that helps make better Synchro and XZ plays. Finally, it can return itself to the hand to set up the activation of its effect again at a later time, while also providing you with a little bit of information and maybe a little disruption for your opponent playmaking by taking a look at that card and planning for how the opponent's going to use it, or just not letting them use it at that during their next turn at all. In my opinion, this is the type of support, both from a power standpoint and a thematic standpoint, that vampires would need to start to creep back into the competitive scene in the modern Yu-Gi-Oh environment. Well, that is my support for vampires. Thank you for your attention and your time. I'm out.